My name is Graham Pollock, and this is my scoping review for KIN516 on various leadership styles and their application to the sport of freestyle skiing. Although I'm not going to go over every leadership style, I wanted to cover the five main styles that I found to be the most important in shaping a freestyle ski team. Those are transformational, transactional, autocratic, democratic, and laissez-faire. There are strengths and weaknesses of each of these leadership styles, so I will discuss that and finally how each of these can be applied to the 2024-25 BC Freestyle Ski Team for that season. So when conducting my research, I discovered that each leadership style had some or a ton of research on it, and it covered various applications in different fields. Sometimes there was even comparisons of the two leadership styles in each of those fields. But what I did notice that there was not a ton of research on how a leader could use each of these styles to their advantage at particular times, so that to benefit them, so that could or benefit them or their followers. So that could be a good topic for further study. So I want to start off by discussing what is a leader. So there's many different types of leaders in different fields, from business to politics to sport to day-to-day activities. Leadership can come in many forms, but it's often an overlooked field, as many times it is handed to the person that is simply best at that particular thing. But leadership is more important than just being good at something. It is designated to help the followers hit certain objectives and goals, all the while shaping a vision for more than just that particular task. I really like this quote as it embodies what I truly think leadership should be. So, leadership is the capacity to translate vision into reality. With that in mind, I will first talk about what I view as the most important leadership style, and it's kind of the grand overview of what my coaching philosophy is set to achieve. So, transformational leadership stands as one of the most crucial yet challenging styles to instill in athletes. It is emphasized by leaders who inspire and motivate their followers to achieve extraordinary outcomes. This style is less concerned with the short term objectives and more focused on the long term processes. In the context of sport, transformational leadership plays a pivotal role in enhancing athlete performance, team cohesion, and overall success. However, it still poses limitations, such as it requires a charismatic leader. Without a charismatic leader, you'll have a hard time getting buy in from the athletes. It also has potential for manipulation. So, in the event that that leader is charismatic and they have unethical principles, you can manipulate the athletes or followers in a direction that could be unsavory. It also doesn't take into consideration the short-term goals, which we will discover in the next slide, are can be important at times. So, moving forward, let's talk about transactional leadership. So, this was developed and really emphasized during the Industrial Revolution. So, transactional leadership emphasizes an exchange of rewards and punishments to motivate followers. So, while it's effective in providing clear expectations and structured feedback, its reliance on external rewards and punishments may undermine the long-term athlete development and trust with the coach-athlete relationship. So it can be good in the short term when really motivating athletes like really quick in a pinch type situations, but it does have a lot of downsides and limitations. So it needs to be used sparingly for sure, especially with regards to punishments as opposed to, rewards. So, transitioning over to democratic leadership, um, we see a shift towards empowering athletes to involving them in the decision making process. It fosters ownership and accountability with the team. So, developing that sense of camaraderie, Oftentimes, too, coaches and technical leaders can overlook certain aspects of the athlete's training. So, utilizing democratic leadership, you can promote creativity and often coming up with ideas that the leader may or may not have already thought of. The limitations of this is it's quite time consuming. You have to hear the opinions of each of the athletes or support staff's input. Failing to do so, you can get feelings of exclusion. Um, and sometimes, if not informed, the athletes like can create a misguided direction. So it's important to still have guidance with regards to the democratic leadership style. Conversely to democratic, we have autocratic. So good for swift decision making and it promotes discipline and order, but it risks diminishing the athlete's motivation and engagement. So in a pinch, like, and you need to come up with a decision quickly, it's good to instill a or autocratic style of leadership. But since it takes away from the ownership from the athlete, it used over the long term can decrease motivation. But also a really important limitation to consider is that in the event that that decision is the wrong decision, it can lead to loss of confidence with the athletes. So it's really important for the leader to understand their ownership and in this decision making process, and that it is on them. Sorry about that. So then, lastly, we're going to talk about laissez-faire leadership. This is characterized by a hands-off approach. It encourages autonomy and initiative amongst athletes and fosters creativity and innovation. However, the lack of guidance may lead to loss of focus and motivation if overused. So it's really good at times because it empowers the athletes to really run their own ship, and it creates or it leads to creativity, especially in a sport so where creativity is so important, such as freestyle skiing. However, you can't rely on this, or you shouldn't rely on this throughout the entire season because they can lose focus, which will in turn lead to regression in skill development. And it's really important to remember that athlete is different and some thrive under that laissez-faire creative process, but some really need that structure. So let's apply these theoretical concepts to the 2024-25 BC freestyle team. And we're going to start at the beginning of the season. And it's important to acknowledge that effective leadership is not a one size fits all approach, but rather a dynamic back and forth of various styles tailored to specific contexts and phases of the training cycle. So we're going to start with our first camp in our introduction, which is set to take place next week. So the introduction meeting is supposed to be and set to be transformational. It lays the foundation by inspiring a shared vision and individualized direction. It will promote commitment and motivation amongst athletes. So it's really important to inspire that vision and use and ask them what they actually want out of the season so that they can feel motivated to take this season head on. So during this camp, we will also be doing some on snow training. So the returning athletes really just got out of their season with me and are still in a bit of a transitionary phase. So I really want to instill a laissez-faire style approach with them. What that means is my assistant coach and myself will be allowing them to really run their own show and be creative and innovative, and we'll film and we'll kind of see how they react to that style, especially given we just had this transformational discussion and we want to see how they guide themselves. Now, in contrast to that, the newer athletes, because I haven't worked with them at all, we're going to follow a really strict autocratic style of leadership in which I will be working with them through various exercises and drills to kind of see where they're at and see where their various skill gaps are. I still want them to be creative, but that time will come, and they should understand this as new athletes, because I just want to like fulfill all the skill gaps that we have. Moving into our foundational airbag camps, these are going to be transformational in nature, but like since it's all about the long-term vision, and we're really going to assess those skill gaps that they really need and create some foundations for them to build upon. We will use transactional leadership in a pinch, though. It can be relatively monotonous, as you can see. It's not a very big jump, and we're used to hitting a lot bigger jumps. It's foundational work. So in the event that the athletes start to lose motivation, one tactic that I will use is, okay, like I understand that you're losing motivation. What I want to see out of today is 20 jumps, and then you can end your training. Um, the purpose behind this is the hope is that within those 20 jumps, or 25 or whatever, that the athlete will have like a strong sense of development, and in turn they can see that if I complete the task at hand, I will eventually develop myself as an athlete. So although it's a transaction at that given time, it's supposed to lead to a transformational style of leadership. So moving into our only on snow camp of the summertime, which was Mount Hood. This is a really fun time. It's sunny, the snow's slushy, and they're in a really good environment to impose a laissez-faire style of leadership. So essentially, what that means is I'm just going to stand back and let them do their thing. It's really important to have this, especially midway through the season when coupled with those foundational airbag camps, because they can get creative on smaller features. They can just ski and have fun. It's sunny, they're around their friends, and I'm just there to embody that structured play. So using our laissez-faire style leadership, my hope is that they can get creative and come up with some ideas that they can use throughout the season, but also just really, really capture that fun that we need to increase their longevity throughout the season and their ski careers. When we go to Europe this year, the idea is to have a democratic and slash transformational style. So this is when they're going to start to see the culmination of all their efforts throughout the summer really come into fruition, so they can see those long-term goals start paying off. Since we're going to be on hill, and it's going to be the start of our prep, or specific prep phase, I'm going to work with the athletes to tick off their specific goals and objectives. But since they're assigned by each athlete working with me, it is a democratic process. This is a picture that was taken in New Zealand last year, just of our team dinner. Um, don't have any pictures from Europe because we haven't gone yet. And then during the competition season, we're going to kind of use a culmination of all of the leadership styles that I kind of imposed. So their transformational leadership will be ongoing. We're going to use transactions in a pinch, like as discussed during their foundational airbag camps. I'm going to use democracy for their run development. I want to work with them and see what they find is realistic, and not just like tell them what they need to do. But at times it will need to be autocratic. Say weather picks up and they're not able to do a specific thing and they still want to, I'm going to have to step in and put a hard cut no or yes on certain things so that they're still safe. And then in between competitions, we don't do much training because it's so heavy mentally and emotionally and physically at these competitions, that we really need to utilize a laissez-faire style so that they have sustainability throughout the season. So in conclusion, the rounded combination of various leadership styles throughout the training and competition season offers a nuanced approach for athlete development and team dynamics. By leveraging the strengths of each style while mitigating their limitations, my hope is to create an environment which is conducive to growth, motivation, and success. As I start my new season with the BC Freestyle team, I'm going to embrace my responsibility of leadership, adapting and evolving to adapting and evolving to meet the ever-changing needs of the athletes in the sport itself. Together, we'll strive for excellence on and off the hill. Here's my list of references. Thank you for listening to my leadership styles presentation.